Welcome, everybody, to the Screen Boy Podcast, episode number 26, version 2.0. I guess we can call this season 2 instead. Season 2 of the Screen Boy Podcast. We had a very long first season. This is version 2.0 of it, second season. So this is episode 26 of it. I've also titled this episode. I've started titling the episodes. The one we did about comic conventions, I named Pros and Cons. That voice you hear, ladies and gentlemen, is one of none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Jesse Starcher.
Good evening, Ronnie Adams. How you doing, man?
Doing well, doing well. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm ready to do a podcast with you here, man. We haven't had a chance to sit down and do one for what? A couple weeks.
Yeah, a week or yeah. So yeah. Between source material and Screaming Boy, we usually have a pretty good thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've titled this one, quotation marks, The Empire Strikes Out.
Ooh, that's clever.
Okay, so thank you, sir. I was going for that. But it brings the question of, now, well, as you can tell by The Empire Strikes Out, tonight we're talking about Star Wars, one of my favorites, if not my favorite fandom. I hate that word, but that's the only thing I can think of to call it. Pardon me. But it's my thing. I love Star Wars. I've loved Star Wars for years. I will always love Star Wars. I actually have started saving for when the Star Wars park in Disney World opens, so I can stay in the hotel, but that won't be done until after the park is done. But I'm going to stay there and get the whole experience. You know, I want to go to the park because it's going to be its own separate entity. You know, like how they have the Magic Kingdom, they have Animal Kingdom, they have Hollywood's. It's not Hollywood Studios. That's a totally different thing. I always get them mixed up. But the movie lot. So this is going to be Star Wars, the whole park. So if I take a week trip, I'm probably going to spend the entire week in Star Wars, the park, drinking blue milk and waving at Jawas. So we're going to be talking about The Last Jedi tonight. So The Last Jedi is something that is, it's a big buzz right now because, of course, it's a Star Wars. It's episode 8 in the series. So, of course, the prequels are 1 through 3. The original was 4, 5, and 6. The Force Awakens was 7, and The Last Jedi is 8, and then we'll have 9 next year, next Christmas, I think, or a couple of Christmases away. I think it's either next Christmas or 2 Christmases away.
It'll probably be 2 Christmases.
2 Christmas, yeah, because we're going to have Solo, which is coming out soon, and then we're going to have. They also announced, I think they're going to do an Obi-Wan standalone film as well. So. The Last Jedi is a controversial topic right now because you either love it or you hate it. I mean, there's no in between really, unless you're just a casual fan, movie fan, who and I'm not. You're automatically. I know you're going. Oh, he's talking about me. No, Jesse, you're a fan. Mm-hmm. You like Star Wars.
I do,
and so it's one of those things where, if you could hear it, you probably heard my text tone go off, and it's actually a lightsaber noise, lightsaber powering on. Yeah, I'm a dork, and I'm proud of it. I'm a nerd. But,
dude, I walked in tonight from the movie making lightsaber sounds.
Oh, dude,
as I walked in, Mindy's hanging out with Kira and giving the kids a kiss, and I'm going.
And Mindy's like, "Shut up."
Oh, yeah. Actually, that is most likely what she wanted to say, but she was kind enough to say, "Your dad's going to be doing this for the next couple of days. Get ready, kids."
So so you either love it or you hate it. If you're not a big fan of Star Wars, you might just like it because it was a good, a beautiful film, a good film, whatever. Now, the interesting thing is I've been watching it for years, and when I'm blessed with a family, they will be they will have to watch it if they're not. That will be a rule in the house. You have to watch Star Wars. Yeah.
Best of luck.
No, they'll watch it. I don't care.
I've tried here, Ronnie Adams. I have tried.
No, coffee. I don't care what it is, what it takes. They will pay attention.
All right.
But no, but you just recently started watching it again because I know you've seen them before. But you said you got Kira, your daughter, interested in it as well.
Yeah, she was. She came up to me there. I think it was about a week or two ago, and she's like, I want to watch the Star Wars movies. I don't know what she don't know what happened. She's 12 years old. She doesn't know much about the franchise at all.
Sure.
And I've tried to sit down and watch them with her in the past, but she's not. She just couldn't sit still long enough. So now she's reached the age where she seems to be interested in it. We were able to do A New Hope. I think we finished that out last weekend, I believe. And then we started Rogue One. And
okay.
Now, I don't want to get you started, sir, but we were talking about the machete order. And so that's kind of what we were shooting with. But then I was like, you know what, kid, we got Rogue One in here, which tells the story that happens prior to A New Hope, like right before it practically. I said, maybe we should kind of watch that one just to slide that one in there after A New Hope so you kind of know what happens. Well, sorry to say, Ronnie Adams, she showed up, but she was reading a book while she was watching in quotes the movie. And we made it halfway through.
Rogue One, right?
Yeah, this was Rogue One. I'm like, kid, I'm like, look, when you have the opportunity to pay attention, or when you want to pay attention, we'll finish this show. So
yeah,
I what are we talking? 9 movies here.
Yeah,
we've made it through 1.5 so far. So not the most, we're not, we should be marathoning these things and going right through them. But unfortunately, her attention span, I don't know, dude, but I'll tell you right now, I went to go see Last Jedi tonight, and she was complaining because she didn't get a chance to go.
Oh, no.
And I said, look, kid, I said, this is episode 8. You have to earn
that right.
Yeah, this is episode 8. You only have episode 3 and 2.5 or whatever you want to call Rogue One. You got some of that in there, and that's it.
Rogue One would be 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah, because you got Phantom Menace.
You're right.
Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and then Rogue One, and then A New Hope.
That's right. I'm sorry. I get the numbers mixed up, but yes, you're exactly right. 3.5.
So I'm such a nerd.
Yeah, congratulations, Ronnie. The big dork.
Yes, proud of it. But I get it. She's 12. And it's one. She may not be into it. There are a lot of girls that of her age that were into it. A lot of girls her age that aren't into it. A lot of boys her age that are and are not into it. It's one of those things where if you're young, we'll give you a pass because at that age it's hard to pay attention to anything, and there's a lot of details in the newer movies that call back to the older movies.
Yep.
There's a lot of details. Like in the new movie, or in Rogue One was actually based off of a plot hole in A New Hope. Not a plot hole, but it's kind of a plot hole. How in the crap did they get the plans to the Death Star? These rebels, so they were like, hey, that would make a great story, and it made a wonderful story and a wonderful movie. I was a little hesitant about it, and then I went in and I was like, oh, this is beautiful, this is great. And then they threw Vader in at the end. That whole scene was just
spectacular.
Oh my gosh, it was so great. And then they superimposed a young Carrie Fisher onto the screen, which was just breathtaking. It was like seeing her in the first movie again for the first time. Of course you can tell it's a little bit computer animated, or whatever you want to say it, but it still looks so real. But then you got Grand Moff Tarkin, who was in the original in A New Hope and everything. So Rogue One was one of the first movies I've seen that done throughout the whole film. So you've got, of course, got a great, Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk as K250, Donnie Yen. Governor Tarkin was his name in Rogue One, but Guy Henry actually played him. So he was the actor that was standing there.
Okay.
But throughout the whole thing, they had the original actor,
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing. You thought I didn't remember his name?
No, I'm just here to assist, sir.
No, you did well, because I probably any other day I probably wouldn't have remembered it. But they had Peter Cushing, Grand Moff Tarkin in The New Hope. They had his face, his features, and everything superimposed onto his face, CGI'd onto his face, and it just looks so natural, so wonderful, And that was, he wasn't in a whole lot, but the scenes he was was pretty predominant, and it looked like they had brought Peter Cushing back from the dead, in my opinion.
If you didn't know he had passed, you wouldn't have known.
Right. He passed in like 1993.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was a while back.
So yeah, Peter Cushing was from 1913 to 1994. So he was 81 years old when he passed away. So he was in his 60s when he did A New Hope. But he just looked like they had went back in 1977 and pulled him out of time and put him on the screen.
It legitimately did.
And it looked so good. So, but anyway, so they got Rogue One. So, and that fits right in between Episode 3 and Episode 4. So Episode 4 goes up to 6, which is Return of the Jedi. And then you have a 30-year break.
30 years.
Between Jedi and The Force Awakens. So The Force Awakens, you're introduced, of course, to Rey, to Finn. Han Solo's in there. And crotchety old Harrison Ford makes his way back onto the screen to revisit his character of Han Solo. I say crotchety old because if you ever watch a interview with Harrison Ford, you know what I mean. But I don't think he's really mean. He just comes off that way because he's 73 years old. He can do whatever he wants.
Except fly a plane.
Except for fly a plane. Well, I mean, dude survived a plane crash.
Flying's one thing.
Yeah.
Crashing's another. He can do both very well, I guess.
Very well. So, and of course, you get Chewbacca, R2-D2, and C-3PO. You introduced the new droid BB-8. So there's, in true, I mean, overwhelmingly, everyone loved it. And you had some haters saying that it was like a carbon copy of A New Hope. And the only thing that I could say when I watched The Last Jedi was, yeah, there was a lot of similarities to A New Hope. Would you say that, Jesse?
I'm sorry. I got muted here. Colton keeps coming down here, and I apologize.
No, you're fine.
You need to go to bed, buddy. Okay? Try to do it silently.
Baba Colt.
Couldn't do that. Baba Colt. You asked me...
A lot of similarities between The New Hope.
Yes.
Yeah, and The Force Awakens.
To me, I felt like that was, man, I don't know. That's a pretty legitimate criticism in my opinion. And I'll just say because it's there and it's clear that that's what it feels like. It feels like you were getting the same story rehashed. But it's different characters,
right?
And they tell a different
feel.
It's a different story. Yeah, it's just the main beats were very similar. So I heard that all over.
Yeah, me being I get passionate about Star Wars. I don't begrudge anybody for saying that. Mm-hmm. Now, for people to say it was the worst thing ever and give it like 1-star reviews, everybody on Internet Movie Database, if you're listening to this and you write reviews on Internet Movie Database, your opinion isn't that important. No one listens to you, so stop being so mean to these movies on here. Not just Star Wars, but any movie. By calling a movie the worst thing you've ever seen, you obviously haven't seen some of the movies that I've seen.
Oh boy.
And I've seen some I've seen some schlock in my days. You know, Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. So if you think that The Force Awakens is worse than that,
you are incorrect.
I'm going to slap you silly. So, but it's basically reawakening the franchise to a new generation. Yes, there's a lot of things that are similar, a lot of beats that are similar that, you know, maybe copy, you know, The Force Awakens. But that's because Star Wars is very much a circular story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the prequels, what do? They go and find a Force-sensitive child that lives on Tatooine that is a slave, you know, that is poor, that, you know, whatever, and they draw him out and they train him up. So you look at A New Hope, a poor farmer who lives on Tatooine, who is the next Jedi Master, is brought out into space because his family dies, you know, or he's taken away from his family, brought out and trained as the new Jedi Master. In Force Awakens, they find a pretty much homeless junk trader who is poor and downtrodden, and they pull her out, or she gets pulled out, and she finds out she's Force sensitive and wants to be trained as the next Jedi Master. So history repeats itself. History repeats itself. I get that, but you have to remember that it comes full circle in each, you know, in each trilogy. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, through these, we are introduced to what I call and what a lot of people call the Skywalker saga. So you've got Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, Leia Skywalker, or Leia Organa Solo later on. And then you've got, you know, because they were twins, spoiler alert. And then now you've got, you flip it over to 7, 8, and 9. You're still got a Skywalker there, and that's Ben Solo. He's Skywalker blood, who is Kylo Ren, the son of Han Solo and Leia Solo. So he's still got Skywalker blood. So there's still a bloodline of Skywalkers going down the line. Okay. So this is the Skywalker saga. And it very much, the story revolves around this family and the strength they have in the Force and being Jedi, or, you know, being trained to be Jedi, or in Kylo Ren / Ben Solo's, he's training to use the dark side of the Force. He's not really fully trained as a Sith. He's not a Sith Lord at all in this. He is Kylo Ren. He is the leader of the Knights of Ren. So everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is confusing. So I'll stop being confusing. Let's get to The Last Jedi. So after the events of The Force Awakens,
hold on.
Okay.
We should, if you haven't figured it out already, ladies and gentlemen.
Spoiler alert.
Be ready, because we are going to talk about some
spoil the crap out of this.
Big time details out of this. So yes,
so if you've not seen it, I'm looking at you, co-host Adam Runyon.
At least he's not on the podcast.
Right, yeah. Being silent in the background and not listening because he doesn't want anything spoiled. Go see it before you listen to this. If you have seen it, please, by all means, continue listening. So after the events of The Force Awakens, Rey has found Luke on a secret island that holds the secret Jedi temple, you know, a sacred Jedi temple. So the First Order is pretty much taking over the universe again, and has used their Star Killer base, or whatever I forget what they called it, Star Killer base, to destroy the Republic. 3 planets. They destroyed 3 planets at one time and wiped out the entire Republic, the New Republic. So they are taking the place of the old Empire, and they have wiped out the Republic, which was known as the Rebellion in the original trilogy. The Rebellion won, so they became the Republic. And now, since they've wiped out the whole Republic, we're back to rebellion again. So we have this group of rebels that are mounting an attack on a dreadnought, a First Order dreadnought, which is a gigantic ship.
Man, that was ship. Awesome.
That was beautiful. And so they're running from, they're mounting attack. They have their bombers. So they have this bombing run, which was very much like a World War II bombing run. So they have Poe Dameron. He goes in, and they have this little comical thing where he calls the captain of the ship and, just baits him and makes fun of him. So I'm holding, I'm sorry, who's this? He's like, can he hear me? It's the whole thing.
That's good stuff.
Which is something that, has been missing from Star Wars was that quippy, quick comedy, in my opinion. So I think he does a good job and brings it in. It's not as annoying as I thought it would be. When I watched The Force Awakens and I was introduced to Poe Dameron, he was kind of like the quick-witted, funny guy. I was like, this might get annoying. It's not getting annoying. It's actually pretty good. So they run that bombing run. I want to talk about that bombing run. They use what looked like a World War II flight pattern in a bombing run. So they've got these slow bombers that are coming in, and they have all the fighter pilots around them, A-wings and X-wings, guarding them. That is right out of, a page out of history with World War II. That's, they used to fly these huge bombers in, they're slower aircraft, and they would have the fighter planes around them, fighting off the Axis, fighter pilots and protecting the bombers. And so they opened the bomb doors, and the whole plan was that these bombers were going to drop all these bombs in the weak spot of the dreadnought after Poe took out all the lasers. Which, a lot of people have a problem with one guy taking out all the, anti-aircraft lasers on the dreadnought. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You've seen the original trilogy, right?
Which one are we talking about here?
No, the original one. 1, 2, and 3 don't exist.
Okay, so 4, 5, 6.
4, 5, and 6. For this podcast, 1, 2, and 3 do not exist. So
okay.
When I say the original trilogy, that's what I mean.
All right.
If there's one constant thing, whether it's Han Solo, whether it's Luke Skywalker, whoever, they're constantly shooting those anti-aircraft guns off of the Death Star.
Oh yeah.
And they never really seem to connect. They do every once in a while. They get lucky every once in a while. So people have a big problem with Poe taking out these anti-aircraft lasers. Basically, I call them anti-aircraft. That's what they're reminiscent of. So he comes in, he does his whole, his flyboy, devil may care attitude and takes them all out. Is that something that, do you find that a weak plot point in the story, Jesse, that one fighter could take out all these different guns?
No, I don't. I personally don't. First off, number one, this was right at the beginning of the movie. So I'm sitting down, and it is a great way to kind of bring the audience right smack dab into the action,
right,
of this piece. But I'm not sitting there going, "Oh yeah, whatever, man." First off, Poe is like one of the best pilots, X-wing pilots that the Rebellion has.
Mm-hmm.
That's been established. So to watch him do what he was doing, I was just like, "Well, this guy's skilled enough to do it." It's
right.
Not like I didn't believe or I didn't criticize it because he shouldn't be able to take all these guys out. No, that's not the case. Although, I mean, you're looking at this one little X-wing strafe the top of this humongous ship, but still, the ship is not all guns. There's only going to be a few guns that are supposed to take care of a few things. They didn't expect anything like this to happen, so it didn't bother me.
So when he takes out the guns on the ship, and then of course BB-8 helps him take out the last gun and everything.
The droid always saves everybody's butts.
Exactly.
BB-8, you guys, you are the real MVPs.
Right, exactly. So he actually gets hit, and his weapon systems go down. And he has one gun left, and BB-8 helps him out. It was kind of like the little Dutch boy sticking his finger in the dam, or every time something he sticks one of another hole comes up. That's that whole BB-8 thing. It was pretty funny. It was really cute. And then he just jams his whole head into the circuit board, and so. They also had a plan worked up where he said, "All right, BB-8, punch it." And he was shooting, or he was shooting. As he was shooting, as he was getting close, they had an extra, jet on the back. It was like a booster. So he was moving too fast for the guns anyway. And just like you said, Poe Dameron is the best X-wing pilot in the Republic, or in the Rebellion now.
Mm-hmm.
He actually leads Black Squad, from what I've read. That's why he has a black X-wing. And if you remember, gold leader, red leader, whatever, all the leaders, all the different colors, his is black. He's black leader. And so it's kind of like he's the man when it comes to this stuff. He's Commander Poe Dameron, and so he is like a rebellion, a Republic rebellion hero, who's an amazing pilot that can pull off a feat like this. So he clears the way for these bombers. Of course, the bombers. Poe gets a little ahead of himself, and they scramble the fighters. They've got TIE fighters coming out, and it's all a big fluke. Somebody shoots a TIE fighter, it crashes into one of the bombers. One of the bombers crashes into the next bomber. It's a huge chain reaction explosion. You have one bomber left, and the bombs get dropped off by Rose's sister. Rose is a character that we will be introduced to later in the movie. She, as a last-ditch effort, she releases the bombs and destroys the dreadnought. But at what cost? They lost so many people, and so that allows the rebellion, ship, which is basically a transport with all these fighters and everything, to jump to light speed and get the heck out of Dodge. And they destroy a dreadnought. That's what they've been waiting for. But this opening scene with the dreadnought being taken down, the bombing run, the dog fights and everything, the fact that Poe ignored Leia's commands and went ahead with the bombing run anyway, even though she knew it was kind of like it wasn't going to work out the way they wanted it to, and they were going to lose a lot of people. Gosh, man, that sucked me in so quick. It just felt like a daggone. I mean, to me, that's a Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, and the visuals, the effects, everything, the fact that they had these little spherical, bombs that they dropped. There were so many in that ship. Holy crap! There were so many bombs in that ship. Yeah. So a lot of people were complaining about Poe taking out all the guns before the bombing run. It doesn't hold any water with me. So, as far as I don't want to rehash the entire movie. So, because that'll take forever. Because me and going through things, and especially with Star Wars, I'll take forever. But that was one of the things that people had a problem with. But Jesse, I'm just going to ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
Out of the whole movie, was there anything that you picked out? You're like, nah, I don't know about that.
I will say that
I know what your answer is.
Yeah, I'm jumping straight to Leia floating out in space and opening her eyes in space. Okay, I have no problem with the fact that you're in space, and as soon as she hit space, when the whole bridge explodes and everybody's sucked out into space, we are trained as sci-fi nerds and geeks and pop culture geeks, what have you. We are trained to understand that the way space works is it's cold,
Yeah.
no sound will travel,
Right.
and you are pretty much going to instantly die if you are not rescued. I mean, I'm talking like immediately.
Within
Seconds.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, the most accurate, I say accurate, the one of the most descriptive phrases told to me about somebody going into space. I always thought it was really cold and you just froze to death, but because of the pressure and vacuum, your blood boils.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me. But have you ever seen Event Horizon?
Yes.
Okay. There's a
kind of a disturbing film, but yes.
Yes, it is very disturbing. I think there's a scene in there where a guy gets he tries to kill himself in an airlock, and he opens the airlock, and it's almost like he gets sucked from inside out.
Yeah, it almost pops.
So that's what I'm expecting.
Right.
Princess Leia floats off ever so gently into the blackness of space, but her hand is a twitchy. She got the twitchy hand.
You see the freezing on her face. You see the little crystallization.
So there's something there.
Yeah.
But then she opens her eyes, and I'm like, okay, your eyes are going to freeze completely solid, or something bad's going to happen. But no, I didn't have any problem with the Force. The fact that she used the Force to bring herself back to the ship, that seemed very likely to me. It was all about the physics of what space should have done to her before she was able to use the Force to get back onto the ship. That was probably one of my biggest criticisms of the movie, and it really was only a fleeting second before I said to myself, okay, Jesse, think about this. You really could, if you wanted to, make any excuse you wanted as to how she survived that. Let's just say all of the physics of space apply in the Star Wars universe as well in ours, okay? She's got the Force, okay? She might be able to somehow, keep her eyeballs from freezing shut. She's got the power over that. Granted, she's not a Jedi Master, but maybe
she's very Force sensitive.
As if she could float out into space and then live and bring herself back into it by using the Force, I would say that okay, I'll let that one slide. So, yeah, it's stuff like that where you throw somebody who is a fan of just about everything. Me and you have been talking about. We've talked about the Orville. Okay. We enjoy.
It's actually pretty scientific.
That's right.
For it being Seth MacFarlane, I expected Family Guy in space, lots of fart jokes and
exactly.
Like that, but it's really good. I'm not a Star Trek fan, and I think the fact that it's Seth MacFarlane and he has a lot of humor in it, brings me around to being a fan of the Orville. Yeah, but it's it's based on scientific, science fiction, with the emphasis on science.
Yeah, that's the reason I bring that up.
Tones and everything in it,
Me and you aren't talking about Star Trek Discovery because we're both not watching it. So the only thing I can really kind of relate that to now is because we both are talking about the Orville. Right. But us being fans of that, we see where it's very heavy related on, or excuse me, relies heavily on science and the science fiction. So with Star Wars, you don't go into, you can't go into it expecting that. And I think that's where a lot of people misstep.
Yes.
Because they are going into it expecting a science fiction movie. This is not science fiction. This is space fantasy.
Yes, this is science fantasy.
Yeah.
Not just science fiction. It is science fiction, but it's very much fantasy. Because to quote my friend Jason Banks, Jason Banks he's been a friend of mine. I claim him as a friend. He may not. He may be like, I don't know that guy. But no, he knows me. But Jason, like I'm famous. Hell, he knows me. Jason Banks said, arguing about what's scientific in a movie about space magic and laser swords. Right. Makes a compelling point.
Exactly.
Space magic and laser swords. So there's a very medieval feel to a lot of points in Star Wars. It's almost like King Arthur in space. Lots of the fact that they call them the Jedi Knights.
Yep.
And very much Obi-Wan's very much a Merlin type character in 4, 5, or 4, A New Hope. He's there to teach and assist, not so much as to be a warrior. He leaves that to Han Solo, who's the rogue of the group, and Chewbacca's the paladin, and then you got Luke, who's the knight, the mage knight, whatever. So, but anyway,
you don't really see Star Trek or any of those science fiction, hardcore science fiction shows or movies that we talk about discuss the concept of destiny,
right?
Much like Star Wars does,
Right.
and that's
Star Wars very much deals with a religion, which is the Jedi religion, and then Star Trek does not deal with. It deals with science and no destiny or fate or anything like that. Everything has to be proven with quote unquote science.
Yeah, humans are the masters of their own destiny in that one.
Now, I've seen the movie twice. I went once on opening night with a friend of mine here at home, with his Adam Swartz is his name. So we went. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember seeing the Leia scene, going, "Ugh, this is going to draw some. This is going to draw some interesting perspectives from everyone." I was behind it because I know that she is force sensitive. Now I agree there could have been better ways of doing that, but it made sense for the movie. But seeing it a second time with my family over Christmas, I'm pleased to say it's not as hokey as I remember it the first time. I guess because I read so many people's opinions about it. It seemed very like cardboard cutout Leia flying in, but it wasn't. There was some fluidity to it. There was motion. It didn't seem as like she was a mannequin being drawn in by a string.
Yeah,
the second time around, which is how I remembered it. So it was still good, and her pounding on the window and then bringing her in. So, but she did go into a coma.
She did. She obviously wasn't. She wasn't like, oh boy, it was cold out there. Grab me a blanket.
Yeah, let me get some hot chocolate and warm up a little bit, and then we'll take on this first order. But she had a bandaged head. She was obviously very, very traumatized by this experience out in space for a little while, by going into a coma and having to recover. So that was one of the big things. I get people's ire with that, but also I have to say, get over it.
There's
space magic.
There's better story to worry about here.
Yeah.
There's a bigger story going on around other than that. Maybe 2 minutes of film. So,
right. So they deal with a lot of balance. They brought the balance of the Force to the forefront in this too. That's why Luke and Darth Vader they could sense each other, and everything. For every evil, there has to be a good. So when Luke is training Rey, he's like, you have to find balance, because if there's Jedi, there's going to be a Sith. If there's good, there's evil. If there's light, there's dark. He was telling her to reach out with her feelings. And the funny little thing in there was he's like, reach out, and she sticks her hand out. And he starts tickling it with a leaf. You feel that? Yeah. And then he smacks her. I thought that was great. That's mean Grandpa Luke there, teaching her a lesson.
Yeah.
But So it was very, very much like Yoda. You know, a little bit of Yoda, a little bit of Obi-Wan mixed in there, because those were his two main teachers. So as she's exploring the island, she's seeing everything. You know, I see peace and I see chaos. I see life and death. I see, growth and decay. He says you see balance, and in the balance, what you see, she's like the force. And it's a balance. It's an energy in that balance in the universe that they can tap into and use. So because Ben is so strong in the force, it had to bring somebody else out who was just as strong as him in Rey, because there had to be a balance to that. So I was like, man, that's just a beautiful plot point, beautiful way of bringing, the mythology of the Force and the Jedi and the Sith around. So I absolutely love that. The stronger that Rey gets, the stronger Kylo Ren gets, and vice versa. So, which brings us to Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. Ben Solo is the wayward student of wayward, I say. The treacherous student of Luke Skywalker, one of his first students. He betrayed Luke. He killed all of Luke's other students, destroyed the Jedi Temple, and turned to the dark side. And thus, that prompted Luke to go into hiding, close himself off from the Force, and nobody knew where he was. Only R2-D2 knew where he was, held a map, to finish off finding Luke. So Kylo Ren is being trained by, is a student of a being. I don't know what to call him other than, this being called Snoke, and Supreme Leader Snoke. He's the leader of the First Order. He's very strong in the Force. You see that. He's kind of like, he reminds me of the Emperor, only, much more disfigured and really gross to look at.
This guy ain't hiding under no hood.
No, he ain't pretty either. So we are teased a little bit with just, holographic rendition of Snoke, and then we actually get to see him in his full glory, so to speak, in The Last Jedi. So we're jumping around in the timeline and the story, a little bit. We're going to do that. We're not going to go, like I said, bullet point down the whole movie. Another big problem that a lot of people have with The Last Jedi was that they felt that Snoke, there was no story to him, that he was a wasted character, because as we see, he has Kylo Ren bring Rey to him. And just like we saw Darth Vader bring Luke to the Emperor, Kylo Ren, who Rey still calls Ben, brings her forth, presents her to Snoke. Snoke lays out his whole evil plan, much like evil leaders are prone to do. He's like, I'm going to destroy the rebellion. I'm going to kill you. You need to turn to the dark side. All this. She resists. He draws all of her information of where Skywalker is, where Luke Skywalker is, out of her. Excuse me. Basically tortures her. I'm glad I got water here. Learns everything she has to know, and then turns to Kylo Ren and says, "All right, it puts me so much in mind of Return of the Jedi." I was like, oh gosh, they're just rehashing it, because he has her lightsaber. He draws her lightsaber with the Force to himself. It's sitting on his throne, right next to his hand. She reaches out to get it. He flicks his wrist, and it does a whole, it turns around, hits her in the back of the head, and comes back to him. And he's like, no, it ain't gonna play out like that.
Yeah. You right there, you're like, oh, she is so outmatched.
Oh, she's screwed. And so he draws all that information out of her after that, presents her to Kylo Ren and says, "All right, now it's your turn. Kill her, because I've seen your future. I know what he's going to do. He's going to flick the lightsaber on, and he's going to drive it right. He's going to cut you down." And the whole time you see, as Kylo's pulling out his lightsaber, the hilted lightsaber, which I absolutely love. Two little blades on the side, and then and then he with his left hand he's using the Force to turn her lightsaber around, and then he said, "Now and then he strikes, and at that moment, Kylo Ren turns it on, and he cuts Snoke in half, killing him. And then they take on his Snoke's guards, which look a lot like samurai.
Oh, dude, those
guys are so awesome.
Those guys are they the Imperial Red Guard? Is that their?
No, they. Forgive me, because I had their name pulled up and ready to go, and I cannot remember what they are called.
I want to call them because they look like the Red Guard from
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and man, they look like action figures just standing on the side. And I imagine being the guy. Imagine, okay, you're in the Star Wars universe, and you got that job because I guess you're that skilled of a warrior. Like, okay, man, here's what you're going to do for the day. You're going to go stand in a room with 4 other guys just like you, and watch Snoke do his thing, sit in a chair.
Which would be worse? Would it be those guys that can't move watching Snoke or watching the Emperor, or would it be the other guys that were on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi that are just standing on this random platform looking into the abyss when they look over, I remember Family Guy. They're just pushing buttons on a wall. And I remember Family Guy, when they parodied, all the Star Wars movies, they just turn around and like, all I want is a rail. Why can't they just put a rail up? This is dangerous. Yeah. Those guys or the guys that are standing and staring into the abyss.
Yeah, I hear you.
But these, gosh, what a Praetorian Guard.
Praetorian Guards.
Yeah. So that's what, and they remind me of samurai.
Yeah, they each got different weapons, which was pretty cool.
Double bladed weapons. Almost like a bow staff or spear. A sword. Whips, stuff like that. So as soon as Snoke is struck down, it is Rey and Ben now, not Kylo Ren, Ben, against these guards, and they just go to town and have an epic lightsaber versus whatever those weapons are battle. They're cutting these guys in half. They're stabbing them through the chest. Oh my gosh, this fight is amazing. And I remember reading on Facebook on Fandango the Fandango web or Facebook's page, where somebody said, "Oh, I wanted to see the Force powers, them throwing them around, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, other than a few lightsaber throws, we didn't get anything. And I'm like, dude, you're missing the point. They're not trained as Jedi or Sith. They don't have the instinct to use their Force powers in battle yet. They do to a point, but you're missing the fact that Kylo Ren is not a Sith Lord. Rey is not a Jedi master. She's not a Jedi. She's not a Padawan even. She's Force sensitive. She's going to be, continue her training as a Jedi, later on, I'm sure. But they are not strong enough or they don't have the instincts to use those Force powers. So what do we get? We get an epic fight. This whole battle scene was crazy. It was so cool. To see them working together and one gets in trouble. The end of the battle where Rey uses her lightsaber, finishes off her last guard, looks at Kylo Ren, and he's getting ready to get stabbed, beheaded, whatever. She just chucks him her lightsaber. He catches it with the blade pointed towards the guy's head, turns it on and off real quick, and just stabs him through the face, and that's it. Done.
Yep.
I was like, oh, it was beautiful. But that's not the main problem people have. The main problem people have was the sudden death of Supreme Leader Snoke. They were like, oh, he was working up, what's his background? Why was he wasted so much? Why couldn't we have more Snoke? And my response to that is, who cares? Who was Snoke? Yes, he was kind of the man behind the curtain. He was the evil Wizard of Oz for a while. But once you find out that he was behind turning Kylo Ren, what more do you really need to know? Because the big bad that we have, the main villain is Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
It's his rise to power that we have to fear, not Snoke. Snoke is powerful, but when you see the fact that Kylo Ren is even more powerful than him, he just has to learn how to use it. I don't care about Snoke anymore. I just want more Kylo Ren. And we don't even know that the story is done with Snoke yet, because this is the second movie in a 3-movie in a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
We may get more backstory on Snoke. Snoke may not even really be dead. We don't know. That's stretching it a little.
I would say we have. We have. Let's see. He lost the upper torso, and I think
hands.
His arm was sitting there on the chair. I don't think he's coming back.
But you also remember what happened with Luke at the end of the movie. He projected himself as a solid construct, kissed Leia on the forehead, handed her her dice from Han, from the Falcon, Han's dice from the Falcon that were hanging, not from the rearview mirror, but that's what it seemed like, of the, they were hanging from the rearview mirror of the Falcon.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember sitting there going, "Oh, those are like fuzzy dice. Are we okay? All right,
really?" But she,
that's exactly what a scoundrel like Han Solo would have.
Right. All he needed was an 8-ball gear shift in it, and it would have been complete. But he was a solid construct. He wasn't actually there, but it was solid. He used the Force to project himself there. Well, who says that Snoke couldn't do that himself?
Well, okay. Now
that's pushing it. That's okay. Speculation on my part.
Yeah, I'm going to say. I mean, I think.
But who cares?
Okay, all right. When I've put a lot of thought into the physics of Luke Skywalker projecting himself onto a completely different planet.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that the whole solid thing. I think he was the only time he was actually being able to be touched or solid in any way was just like you said when he kissed Leia on the forehead. And I think that was it. Now. We know that throughout the movie, Kylo and Rey, they could, we saw them touch each other at one point. So I'm thinking that the bond or whatever between those two, I don't know why. That's the interesting part of Star Wars to me, is to figure out what this bond is between Rey and Kylo. But the bond between Luke and Leia, their brother and sister, I think that's at the one time where he could touch something. And then I think during that whole battle between Kylo, he doesn't get touched at all.
Right.
He is, I mean, at one point the Kylo swings a sword and you see Luke just kind of bend backwards, do the Matrix thing, then kind of flip out of the way.
Right.
And you're like, okay, so he doesn't get touched at all throughout that whole time.
No, and he actually swings his lightsaber through him.
Yeah. Now, it was a great moment. But anyway, the whole reason I was bringing that up is because for the longest time, I just finished the movie like an hour ago. So don't. But
for the longest time, though.
I was sitting there looking at it like, okay, how is he doing this? How is he able to touch? And of course, again, just let it go. Don't get hung up on those things like me. A lot of people, you got to tell people, look, it's a fantasy movie. Don't get hung up on the little things and overanalyze this, that, and the physics of this, and
Yeah.
why is this not happening the way it is compared to. And I think that's my only explanation as to why he could touch and then not be touched at the same time. But anyway, so go ahead there.
Oh, okay. So everybody's saying that they hate the fact that that Snoke was, has no backstory. That they wanted him to be Darth Plagueis. Have you ever heard the tale of Darth Plagueis?
I've heard of him. I don't know where
Yeah.
I've heard of him from though.
It was mentioned in one of the movies.
Okay.
They wanted him to be that, or they wanted him to be, the Emperor that brought back, who actually survived, or whatever. My point is, Snoke served his purpose. He brought Kylo Ren to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need another Emperor.
We don't. And he
was the Emperor.
Yeah, he kind of was the Emperor. We got to see that glimmer of hope where he turned on the guy that's pulling all of his strings. You were just waiting for that to happen because Snoke is just an absolute jerk, and he's pulling all these strings of Kylo Ren, and even gloats about it in front of him.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh man, just what is going to happen in this guy somehow? And then he does, and you're like, yes, all right, now we're talking. This is kind of what we wanted. Yeah. But of course, that's not the way things are going to go, because
somebody was talking about that whole battle, was a waste, the waste of Snoke. They didn't use the Force powers, and I wrote to them. This was another Facebook argument I got into. I've only been into one.
Ronnie, Facebook, and Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars is passionate, man, passionate. I said, wouldn't it be cool if Rey was brought before Snoke, and Rey and Kylo Ren got into a huge fight, lightsaber battle, and Rey bests Kylo and cut his hand off, but refuses to kill Kylo because she can still feel the good in him. So Snoke says, forget this. I'm going to finish you off myself, and uses Force lightning to start killing Rey. But at the last minute, Ben Solo comes out and says, no, this is not how this is supposed to be. Grabs Snoke and chucks him out a window, killing Snoke and turning him to the light. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Because it's already happened in Return of the Jedi.
No.
Gosh, George Lucas, I'm so glad you're not allowed to go near these movies anymore. Adding the no in was just awful. But anyway, guys, the thing you have to remember, Jesse, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I've said this before, this is reimagining Star Wars. Not reimagining. This is continuing Star Wars.
Yep.
This is a new beginning for a new generation. Old fans and new fans alike can enjoy this because they're opening up new stories, new characters, expanding the universe. Everybody's so ticked off because the extended universe that they had with all these, the books, all these books that everybody read and everything, are no longer canon. So everybody's stuck on these extended universe books, and they want these things so bad that they are pretty much just shunning anything that they come up with that's new and different. I like the extended universe books. One of my favorite books I ever read was Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina. Mm-hmm. And there was a bunch of short stories about all these different aliens and everything that were in the Mos Eisley Cantina, and their stories, because it expanded in the Star Wars universe. It told you about Hammerhead. It told you about the band. It told you about all these different, all these characters that were in there that you only got a glimpse of, and that were there just for background. So I enjoyed that. But do I expect that to be in the new movies? Absolutely not. Because J.J. Abrams came out and said, sorry, guys, we know you love it, but that's no longer canon.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have we have new stories that, and new directions that we're going to go. But we're still going to stay true to the Star Wars universe, the feel of this, so that fans can, old fans and new fans alike can enjoy it. So, being a J.J. Abrams fan anyway, I kind of opened myself up. I was a little nervous of what they were going to do, and so far, this, of course, Last Jedi was not J.J. Abrams. He was a producer on it. Him being a fan, he's got a lot to say in it. But what he did with The Force Awakens, I love. And what and where it's going, I absolutely, I love it. And the director of The Last Jedi, which was Ryan Johnson, I thought he did great. He actually wrote the script for this as well, and so I enjoy where it's going. I enjoy the fact that we don't have to have another emperor in Snoke. Give me a little more. I wouldn't mind a little more of his backstory, whatever. But the fact that they were like, yeah, kind of, we fooled you on this a little bit. You thought he was going to be the main problem in this. Well, he's not. It's actually Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
He's taking over the First Order. He's going to be the big problem in this, and he's going to be your main antagonist now, which I love.
And I'll tell you right now, is it Adam Driver? Is that his name? He plays Kylo Ren. The emotion.
Excuse me. Oh.
The emotion. I don't think I've ever seen any other movie other than Episode 7 with Adam Driver in it.
If you haven't seen it, watch Logan Lucky. He's in that with Channing Tatum, who have actually come to like as an actor. It's a wonderful movie. I was really shocked, at how good it was.
Well, you could just tell that he does a fantastic job expressing rage.
Oh,
rage and
sadness.
Yes. This man is conflicted. You believe every little bit of that on the screen, in my opinion, which speaks a lot to somebody who has to portray a man, a person who's trying to become an adult, find himself, and in the process of doing that has been doing some really, really horrific things. Number one, killing his own father.
Yeah.
Number two, about pulling the trigger on his own mom.
Right.
And it's not like he does this without consequence. He could portray this character as somebody that's very flippant about what they're going to do, or try their best to convey the emotion that they're conflicted in doing this and not get it across the screen at all. He delivers. He delivers every little bit, an ounce of emotion that you should be feeling if you were conflicted, as that word comes up 3 or 4 times throughout the movie, and he does a great job of portraying that. So yes, I don't want Snoke behind the screens, or behind the scenes. Let's try that. Behind the scenes, pulling him and pushing him here and this, that, because that directs our rage against the wrong person.
Right.
We need to be mad at Kylo for what he did and what he's done so far and everything that he's planning to do.
Everybody has a choice.
Yep.
In the Star Wars universe, everybody makes a choice. Good, bad, light, dark, whatever. Han Solo was a scoundrel, but he made a choice. He became a hero. Leia had a choice. Did she remain? After watching her whole planet blow up, Well, does she remain inactive? No. She, even in the comic books, they were like, "No, we got to make her do something." Because if you go back in the archives and listen to source material, not too long ago, we did the first 5 issues of the Princess Leia run in the Marvel Comics. So they even, spoke to a character in that. So she made a choice. She's no longer Princess Leia. She was General Leia. A General, Leia Organa. Later, Leia Solo. But
yeah. Get those names right.
Yeah, I have to keep him. The reason I'm saying is I have to keep him straight in my head. I need my playbook. Notes are not doing me very good right now. But you have a choice. Snoke laid it out there. You have to kill your dad if you want. If you want to go further in your training. Well, it was his choice to turn the lightsaber on and stab Han Solo through the chest. He could have said no. Kylo Ren's he's a douche. He's evil. And he's making all the wrong choices. He made one right choice, and that was not to blow up his mom.
The one thing we were missing in the original trilogy was Darth Vader. Darth Vader was evil straight out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we assumed, and that's what we knew. What we knew. He was the Man in Black,
right?
And there was no hope for him whatsoever. In this show, in this trilogy that we're getting right here, if aside from all the horrific stuff that this kid has done, we're still pulling for him because we don't want him to become complete evil.
But he does.
Yes. And you didn't see that with Vader. You knew right off the bat that, okay, yeah, he's evil.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
We're not get around. We're not rooting for him to turn at any point,
right?
Until the very end of the series. So yeah, so here we go. I mean, that's what I think separates this trilogy from the last one. So
as awesome as Darth Vader, and now I may draw some ire for this. I may draw some hate, but as awesome as Darth Vader is, and I will always. He's amazing. He's an amazing villain. He's one of the most powerful, villains ever. He was always. You can always say that he was a lackey.
Yeah.
Because who was the puppeteer the entire time? The Emperor. And he never made that decision until he saw his son being tortured by the Emperor to turn to the light. And by that time, it was too late. He was dying. So I don't need another lackey, and I don't think we need another lackey. We need somebody that genuinely is the bad guy, and we don't need another mysterious figure in the background wearing a robe. We need Kylo Ren. We need, and hopefully in the next movie, the Knights of Ren will make their debut. His gang, the guys that he leads, that we saw a glimpse of in The Force Awakens. So that to me, is a perfect setup for this last movie. This last movie is the end to my the way I think it's going. I can't say that because I don't know, I've not read the next script. I don't know how it's going to go. But the Skywalker saga is coming to an end, it seems. The Skywalker bloodline ends with Ben Solo. All right? So he's the last Skywalker descendant because Luke dies, and that just leaves him. So what that does is that opens up a whole nother world of Rey becoming a Jedi Master and going out and seeking out other Force-sensitive beings in the universe.
And they're out there.
Just like we saw at the end of The Last Jedi, the kid that uses the Force to draw the broom to himself and starts sweeping. And then you get that shot of him holding the broom like it's a lightsaber, staring off into space. That gave me chills, man.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, that means there's going to be new movies. That means there's going to be new stories to be told. That means there's going to be a new expanded universe, more Jedi, more adventures, different planets. which we have to talk about that different planet they showed in The Last Jedi too. We have to talk about that. So we have a whole different, new stories coming up. Do I want the Skywalker saga to end? No. Was I happy about Luke being, dying? No, because I love Luke Skywalker. Ever since I was a little kid, you always wanted to be Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. He was too whiny in A New Hope. And he was still a little whiny, but he was turning, he was growing out of it in Empire, but you still wanted to be more like Han Solo in Empire.
Oh yeah.
But excuse me, but you want to be the guy dressed in black with the green lightsaber, who knows that he's a bad man. He could take on anybody in Jabba's palace, and he's there was a whole scene they cut out of Return of the Jedi where he created his own lightsaber. Because in Jedi training, that's one of the things you have to do. You have to make a lightsaber with the Force. You have to put together your own lightsaber with the Force, no hands. So they cut out a whole scene of him doing that. Mark Hamill's even said that there was supposed to be a scene of him creating a lightsaber in there, but they, of course, removed it. But so you've got, you want to be Luke Skywalker. You love him, but Luke Skywalker's in his 60s, man. There's only so much more adventuring that he can do. And this was his last great adventure because he cut himself off of the Force for 30 years hiding, trying to preserve the Jedi religion, hiding the ancient Jedi texts, which survived, by the way, if you didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah.
As Finn was looking for a blanket in the Falcon, you see the books there. His last act of heroism, he makes himself appear on this planet, and takes on, Kylo Ren and just says, I'll see you around, kid, and disappears. Oh my gosh. I wanted to stand up and clap because I thought that was brilliant. And then when he faded away, like the Jedi before him, I was like, no. But it made me so excited because that means there's going to be more stories, more people, more characters come out of this. You'll still have a few mainstays. You'll probably still have Chewie because God knows how long Wookiees live.
Oh yeah.
You'll still have C-3PO and R2-D2. Unfortunately, you're not going to have Princess Leia because of the untimely passing of Carrie Fisher. And
now,
Luke
don't go too far with the way technology is. We just talked about Peter Cushing.
That's true. But Luke will be back. I'm sure he'll be back because even after Obi-Wan died, guess who showed up in Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back? Obi-Wan.
Yep. As
a Force projection. And Yoda showed up after he died. And unfortunately, in the extended, a young Anakin Skywalker showed up looking all creepy. And it's funny because they told him that what they were doing, so they filmed him for it. Because this old guy shows up, and nobody really knows. It's Obi-Wan, it's Yoda, and this other dude. And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's Darth Vader. That's Anakin Skywalker.
Who is this dude?"
And you're like, "Oh, I get it now. That's his dad." So in the extent or in the new cuts, they put old Woodenhead, the guy with the bad actor,
Hayden Christensen.
They put him in there, but they didn't. To his credit, they didn't tell him what he was supposed to be doing. They're like, "Yeah, just stand there." So he thought he was playing the character that he was playing, in Revenge of the Sith. So he just stood there and looked all menacing and evil, and creepy. So when he shows up, that's why he's got this creepy look on his face. He didn't know.
He didn't know what was going on.
And wonderful George Lucas was like, "Yeah, just stand there." The same guy that looked at Carrie Fisher said, "There's no underwear in space."
Oh my goodness! You know what's funny is my 7-year-old son.
Oh no!
Knows that. He knows that, and he never watched the shows. It's all picked up from YouTube. That quote.
There's no underwear in space.
Yes, that has proliferated somehow into his YouTube
That
world.
is amazing.
He's like, yeah, they don't wear underwear in space. I watched that. They don't wear it in Star Wars. And I'm like, okay. So we need to talk about what you've been watching.
We need to limit your YouTube usage.
That's a given. Hold on a second. Colton,
you go right ahead.
What's up? You can't find the Powerpuff Girls? All right, I'll help you right now. Okay.
Baba Colt.
Baba Colt is not asleep yet. He wants to watch
Powerpuff Girls.
He has become a big Powerpuff Girl fan here as of late.
There's worse things.
I think when Kira was little, I went through every season and every episode now see, Colton, it should be right there. It is. I found it. All right. Yes, I did. Now get upstairs and go to bed. I watched every season and every episode of Powerpuff. You're very welcome, buddy. Be careful going up there, okay? But yeah, I watched every season and every episode of that. Johnny Bravo as well.
Ooh. Yeah, there's worse things. I like it.
All right, go ahead and continue.
So where were we? But
we were talking about
underwear in space.
Yeah.
But
let's move on from that.
Yeah, let's get out of that. We are introduced to a new planet, along with a new character named Rose. Finn and Rose. Rose is she is on the rebel ship, and she's in charge of keeping people out of the escape pods and running from from certain death.
Yeah.
So she finds Finn trying to get onto an escape pod to go find Rey, and she thinks he's abandoning ship. She stuns him with her little shock stick and is going to turn him in, to the brig. Well, they figure out that the whole time their ship is running from the Star Destroyer and Snoke's ship, and they can't get through the rebel ship's shields with their guns, so they're just chasing him, waiting for him to run out of fuel, because they have figured out a way to track them through hyperspace, through light speed, which was mentioned in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
As they're getting ready to, they're getting the plans. Jyn Erso and I can't remember the other character's name offhand. But she's looking and she goes, "Oh my gosh, they're working on ways to track through light speed." So I thought that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this isn't Rogue One. This is brilliant." And so they track them through light speed. They show up behind them and they're pummeling them, and they're like, "Hey, just wait until they run out of fuel and pick them off." So the ships that are escorting, the Princess Leia's, General Leia's ship, they're quickly abandoning their ships and going on to the bigger one, and their ships are being blown up. The fighters and all that. So they're getting down to one ship, and it's slowly running out of fuel. Working past their differences, Rose and Finn figure out a way that they can keep them from tracking them through and make one last jump to light speed and get away. And whether they have fuel or not doesn't matter at that point, because they won't be able to track them. So they get into a ship and they go down to this one planet, which is a planet that is it's a very lucrative planet. It's a gambling. It reminds me a lot of Vegas. There's a lot of gambling going on, a lot of rich people, and they find out that these rich people live there. They're there because a lot of them, if not 90% of them, have made their money by dealing arms to both sides and fueling the war. So it's kind of like Mos Eisley, only cleaner and nicer. Mm-hmm. It's just filled with a bunch of scum.
Yeah.
And Rose even says if she had her way, she would love to put her fist through the whole city. They find that these young kids are being held prisoner. They're slaves. They're taking care of these animals that are, raced for sport and abused. and they're there to find the master code breaker. And the master code breaker, they don't find him. But who do they find? They find DJ.
Hey, real quick, did you see? I don't know if you want to consider it a meme, but it's something, it's a picture on Facebook, so I will call it a meme, where they were talking about the description of the person you go to get. They're supposed to go and get. He's going to be, I can't remember the name of the lady, the big goggle lady that gives a description of who they're looking for, but he's going to be at a high rolling table, and he's usually wearing a red flower.
Yeah.
And
pendant, yeah.
Well, somebody posted that description, and then right below it, it showed Harrison Ford from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's sitting at a high rolling table. Actually, if you look at that place that they're in, it really does resemble that place that he was in, the bar or whatever, the casino. I don't know what it was, but
it was a restaurant, bar, cabaret kind of.
And I swear, if you listen to the music, there's hints of Anything Goes.
It probably
in the music. It isn't completely overt, but I swear it just feels like there's some stuff going on there that's really, really takes you back to that scene in Temple of Doom.
Do you know what that club was called in Temple of Doom?
What?
Club Obi-Wan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's Club Obi-Wan, man. And so, they probably did a little throwback to that.
Yeah, they sure did.
And which I find, it's so brilliant. But anyway, so they have their little adventure. They run into DJ, which is played by Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro.
I'm trying to remember what his name was, and I kept saying Giovanni Ribisi. That's not him.
That's not him.
Giovanni Ribisi.
No,
I could not remember this guy's name. Okay.
While I enjoy Giovanni Ribisi, that is not him.
Two totally different.
So Benicio del Toro, DJ, they meet him and they're put in jail for where they parked on the beach, parked their ship on the beach, and they meet DJ, who is a code breaker under his own, a thief, code breaker, all around scoundrel. So they find out that he can do the job that they were trying to find the master code breaker for. So they enlist him. He ends up helping them get onto Snoke's ship, but actually turns traitor on them and gets them arrested by the First Order. They're about to be killed. DJ gets his money, his ship, and flies on. So I don't know where if he's gonna show up in the third movie or not. And Rose and Finn,
if he does, there's going to be
a reckoning.
There'll be no mercy.
Yeah. So he flies on, so it leaves Finn and Rose there to face the First Order, which Finn is not. He's wanted anyway because he's a traitor to the First Order, and because he was a stormtrooper, and he turned against the First Order and became a hero of the rebellion. And this actually leads to the epic showdown between Finn and Captain Phasma, who wants him dead because says he's a traitor.
Captain Phasma.
I thought she was great.
Yeah.
I thought she was a good character, and everybody, is kind of down on her too.
I don't know why. I mean,
I don't either.
When she showed up, I was like, oh yeah, I remember the one female stormtrooper, and yes, she is quite shiny.
Yeah,
and you kind of wonder what her backstory is. Like she begs to have something. And well, what they did,
I'm sure there'll be
Marvel's done a comic on her, right?
Yeah, I was going to say. I was going to say there's going to be a comic or something done of her, but there already has been.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've got Captain Phasma with her Spear of Doom or whatever that thing is, and then Finn actually picks up one of the shock sticks that he faces down, and with he had the lightsaber, so he faced down one of the stormtroopers with that. So he picks up that weapon and has this epic battle with Captain Phasma, and he actually ends up winning. Beat the crap out. Well, she kind of beats the crap out of him, and knocks him off this ledge. And Rose takes a pot shot at him, and she turns around and starts just unloading with a little sidearm blaster on Rose, trying to kill her. And then you see Finn just raise up because he's on this platform that's raising up. And he just goes, "Hey," and knocks her. Oh,
a la Back to the Future 2.
Yes. It just blasts her.
And Marty McFly jumps off the building, lands on the DeLorean, and then the DeLorean comes up. That totally reminded me of that when he came up and he's like, "Hey," right to the face.
Just knocks her in the face, breaks her, puts a hole in her helmet, and then she falls to her doom in this in Snoke's ship.
She's fine.
She's okay.
Shiny armor protected her.
Well, I mean, blasters bounces off of her.
Exactly. If the blasters are bouncing off of her, the fire ain't gonna do nothing to her. She's gonna be
she just
fine.
may come back with a little bit of a scar on her face where that hole in her helmet. But so the ship is blown up around him. BB-8 rescues him by taking over an AT-AT walker.
Again,
BB-8
saves the day.
They get on a ship and they fly off. Which leads me to talk about one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in a movie, especially in a Star Wars movie. They get everybody off the ship into these shuttles, and they're only tracking large ships. So they're getting into these shuttles and going down to this abandoned rebel base, and they're abandoning ship. So they can regroup and hide and make get a rescue call out. And so one of the new characters who didn't last very long was played by Laura Dern. She did a great job as Vice Admiral Holdo. She takes command after Leia goes into her Superman coma. And she's got this plan. She doesn't tell anybody about it really. She sets it in motion, and she goes down with the ship. She's like, "Hey, listen, somebody's got to pilot this, while you all are, going away. You all take care, and I'll take care of this. Take care of yourselves. Make sure the rebellion goes on, and I'll take care of this." And she has this nice little moment with Princess Leia. They're getting ready to say goodbye, and they both they both say, "May the Force be with you" at the same time. And Princess Leia says, "You know what? You say it. I've said it enough. Or I've said it. I've said it. Yeah, I've said it enough." And she goes, "May the Force be with you always." And I was like, "Oh no, Laura Dern, you're so good in this." So seeing that the First Order has figured out their plan and starts picking off the emergency ships, the escape ships, and, they've got this big cannon. They're just blowing them up and taking them out one by one. She turns this giant ship around, points it at Snoke's ship, and says, "I got enough to make one last jump into light speed," and turns it into a light speed missile battering ram, and just that whole thing where this complete silence, and all you see is a bright flash and the ship break in half.
I just saw a promoted article on Facebook about how
the theaters
they're putting notices up that, hey, just to let you know, our audio didn't crap out, even though all this stuff is like happening on the screen and there's dead silence. That was impactful, but people apparently are confused because they're like, "Well, what happened?" And then everything comes back in, which, dude,
you bunch of uncultured Philistines.
it obliterated that fleet, though, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it just white cracks through all the ships. It was, again, another stunning visual.
So good.
We mentioned the planet. I don't know if we're going to get there or if we're even going to touch on it, but the planet that they go down where Luke and Kylo fight, that was another spectacular visual.
Oh, yeah.
Where the speeders, it looks like, well, your mind goes to Hoth, where it's like a snow planet, and then you see the guy walk out onto the onto the surface of the planet, and underneath it's red. And then one of the soldiers grabs it and says it's salt. So what looks like snow, it's all salt. But regardless, the ground underneath it was red.
Yeah.
And when those ships went out, and like the whole
skimmers or whatever.
Yeah, the skimmer would go out and hit, and they were just going across the planet's surface to try and thwart whatever the Empire was, the big battering ram thing that they had. But anyway, just the views of the white and then the red underneath it. I mean, just really, beautiful. Dude, like I said, I don't go to the theater very often, but I'll tell you right now, this was a movie that I was able to really enjoy. Sitting down in a theater all by myself, but it was just me.
Well, yeah.
I was the only guy that went in our family, and I mean, it was spectacular to look at. There were so many great, and that's what Star Wars films are known for. So many great environments and bringing those beautiful, beautiful scenes to the movie. So, I got to harp on it some more about the visuals and the audio in regards to that light speed missile. Good stuff.
Well, quick trivia. You mentioned the soldier, the rebel soldier that said it's salt.
Yeah.
You know who that was?
No, who was it?
Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One.
I'm sure there's got to be so many cameos. Matter of fact, at a couple points, I think they were on the base, I think, getting ready to. It's right before the. I think they were on the ship, trying to scramble the ship, and anyway, they Kylo and the rest of the fleet just toss in, I don't know, a bunch of phaser blasts or whatever, something to explode the hangar. Well, anyway, I was looking around for extras, like, hey, do I recognize that guy? Because it seems like anymore cameos will happen like just out of the blue, and it may only be for like a quick second, and they don't even say anything. And you're like, oh, wait a second, that guy was, who was it in in episode 7? It was
James Bond.
James Bond. Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig
was a stormtrooper, right? Yep.
Had a speaking role, and there's a couple in here that you never would have guessed.
Okay.
We'll hit on that real quick. On that planet. No. I'm sorry. I think he's a rebel fighter, but he plays the voice of him, and it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It plays Slow and Low, Slowenlo, Slow and Low, which is there's always
yep.
Slow and Low is actually a Beastie Boys song.
Oh my gosh.
There's always a reference to Beastie Boys in these new movies.
That's hilarious.
Is
that a J.J. Abrams thing?
Yes.
Okay, because
if you
synonymous with Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah, sabotage, yeah.
You've seen R2-D2 in Star Trek, right? Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Okay. That came out way before we even knew Abrams was going to do a Star Wars movie too.
Oh yeah,
which was interesting. Yeah. It's just because I think ILM or whoever was doing the effects.
So it's I think it was Industrialized Magic, but so you've got and in I think it was the Force Awakens, one of the Rebel pilots had his name on the helmet just like the others did, and it was an alien language, but it actually spelled out "Hello, Nasty."
So that's a Beastie Boys one as well.
Yeah. So there's always a Beastie Boys something going on.
Interesting.
And but anyway, Slow and Low, that was just Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And then you've got Gareth Edwards, which was a resistance trench soldier that said it's salt. And then uncredited, they were actually credited. Well, yeah, they were credited for their parts. Gary the dog was actually the they based one of the characters, one of the aliens in that space casino off of Gary the dog, which is Carrie Fisher's dog.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's one that was all bent over and walking real slow and everything. You'd be able to point it out now that you know.
Mhm.
And then playing a couple of resistance troopers was Edgar Wright and his brother Oscar. Edgar Wright being the director of the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy. Scott Pilgrim wrote part of Ant-Man. You know, the Blood and Ice Cream is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's End.
Cornetto trilogy.
Cornetto trilogy. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I've always called it Blood and Ice Cream.
No, that's fine. I mean, the only reason I know that, legitimately, the only reason I know that is because the guys who do Back to the Future Minute, that podcast,
they call it the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah, they've now gone to the Cornetto trilogy, so they're doing all three movies by minute. So
I've got to listen to that. So, but anyway, they oh my gosh, wow, movies by minutes. So there's always all kinds of great, little cameos and everything that you may miss, or you need, a little more time to catch on to, but just, beautifully done. Oh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Slow and Low, was the guy that actually reported them for parking on the beach.
Okay,
that's what it was. It just clicked in my head. So
that's funny.
Really saying Slow and Low all the time, but it was just wonderful, wonderful cameos, and it really speaks to this franchise that everybody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah,
everybody's like, no, there's got to be some kind of part for me in here.
Just something.
Something. I don't care.
Toss me as an extra.
Because the guy that was buying Rey's junk off of her in The Force Awakens was oh gosh, what is wrong with me tonight? Thank God for
1204. Are you thinking of the guy that we were just talking about, the Cornetto trilogy? I know.
Yeah.
Isn't oh, here we go.
He's one of my favorite actors. This is ridiculous. Thank God for editing. I'm probably not going to edit all this out because it's funny stuff. Simon Pegg.
Simon
Pegg played him. He got in all kinds of makeup. They distorted his voice and let him play the you get 1/4 portion. There's 3 portions last time. But so there's all kinds of, everybody wants to be a part of this. It doesn't matter. And so it was just, as far as, we started out talking about, the problems that people had with it, and, what everybody found wrong with it, and blah, blah, blah. As you can tell, I haven't really found much wrong with it at all, other than the crazy Superman flight into, back into the ship, which was kind of, like I said, it wasn't hokey as I remembered it, but I, maybe could have, done something a little different than that, but, that's as far as I'll go with that. But it's not just blind fandom on my part. It's just the fact that this was just a well-written, really good, visually stunning movie. And I just can't see how people have a problem with this. If you have not, if you've seen it, which I hope you have, you haven't listened to this. We've been scattered all over it, spoiling things and which is what you come to expect of a podcast about a movie anyway. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you've seen it, go see it again. But this time, if you didn't enjoy it, this time when you go see it with an open mind of saying, this is a new Star Wars story. Not a new Star Wars, just a new Star Wars story for a new generation and a everybody has to grow up sometime. Everything has to evolve. Everything has to mature. Everything has to change. And Star Wars is no exception to that rule. So as the Skywalker saga comes to an end, we've got so many more possibilities with Rey and her story and the people that she may train one day and so on and so forth. So there's a whole world of possibilities that this movie has opened. And if you're still harping on everything being, different from the expanded universe, or if you're still harping on, people being, characters being wasted or anything, I just have to repeat myself. Dude, keep an open mind, because you can't make everybody happy. You can't make everybody happy. But what they've done is they've opened up new possibilities, breathed new life into a franchise. I mean, it wasn't dying or anything. It was just one of those things where, like, well, there's only so many places you can go from here, which is true. But there are so many more places now that you can go that is ridiculous. Jesse, you got any kind of last words or anything?
All I can say is that I enjoyed myself immensely watching the film. You said it was 2.5 hours, right?
2.5 hours. Didn't feel like it, did it?
No, I sat through the whole thing in a movie theater seat. That can sometimes be a challenge depending on the theater that you're at. Sometimes they're not the most comfortable, but I was invested in the whole thing immensely. So it's not like there was any parts where I was like, oh my gosh, this is too slow. Again, it was visually a breathtaking undertaking, I guess, on their end as well to put that out there. I honestly was sitting here going, now that I've got my movie pass.
Yes.
Brilliant. Yes. Now that we have the movie pass, I will be going to go see a lot more movies. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, not all movies are going to look like this.
No.
Not all movies have this feel to them. So it kind of depressed me a little bit, because I've opened up and used my movie pass. My breaking in of the movie pass was probably one of the best movies of 2017.
Yeah.
And I don't get to
you did it well.
A whole lot of movies. Yeah, I don't get to go to a whole lot of movies. So, I look forward to that. But again, I think I spoiled myself by doing it, opening up with this first movie's Last Jedi. So, but the next thing I would like to say is that I cannot wait to be able to listen to the podcasts that have reviewed this movie. I have been skipping podcasts left and right. There's probably 4 podcasts. I know Radlich has done one.
Yeah, they did Damn You Hollywood.
Yep. Our boys over at Kapow have done one.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other Comic Geek Speak. So I've got like 4 or 5 podcasts that I've got to listen to that are covering the movie. I want to hear what other people's since you've seen it, I know you've looked at some of the criticism. I personally have been, as best as I could, I've been keeping away from looking at anything that people have posted on Facebook and whatnot.
Sure.
To let that influence what I was going to go in and see. There were a few things that crept in that I knew was going to happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's completely unavoidable. The thing is that didn't ruin my movie experience.
Yeah.
So I had a good time. I enjoyed the movie. I would advise you that give it a shot. If you're a Star Wars fan, don't hop into this in the middle of the franchise, not watching any of the other ones. I think you might want to give.
Oh, you'd be so lost.
Yeah, you might want to give the other movies a shot first, because like I told my daughter, I'm not taking you to episode 8 when you've only made it through somewhat of episode 3.
She just wants to see Adam Driver.
No, Ronnie Adams. No, I don't know. Dang it! She'd come out of there. Here's what it is. She'd come out of there being like, "I need a porg. I need a porg."
Yeah, that's true.
I need to give me a porg. Like, okay, all right.
Well, all the girls are talking about Adam Driver now.
Well, So be it, I guess. I'm not a teenage girl. They can talk about him all they want. I don't see. He's not the most handsome in my opinion, but I guess what other
ripped for this movie though?
He did well. I let's move on.
It's starting to get a little too real for you. Huh?
Starting to get uncomfortable.
No, I'm just saying, man. I was pretty proud of my boy there. I was like, okay, I see. I see you, Adam.
Yeah, put a shirt on.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I see what you're doing. But anyway, also a little quick tidbit about Adam Driver, real quick. Respect him very much. He is a Marine Corps veteran.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And he started a nonprofit organization bringing arts to the military. They can put on stage plays for the military, for the soldiers there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, real cool guy. He gives back, and he was on Saturday Night Live, did a whole undercover boss thing as Kylo Ren, which was hysterical. I anymore. I don't get into Saturday Night Live. I think it's kind of junk now. I'm not a big political guy, and that's all they do is talk politics on that show.
Yeah.
And but it's just not funny to me anymore. But that's been a while back. But that was on point. That was really good. So, but yeah, Jesse, do you have anything else you want to say? Final thoughts?
No, man, I'm ready to get out of here.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Pardon me. Yeah, that was disgusting. I apologize.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready to get out of here, man. I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk to you about it because
I am too, man.
I know for a fact that when it comes to being a fan of Star Wars, Ronnie Adams is the guy to talk to. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the show and actually going to get to see it in the theaters. And I don't do that. Like I said, I haven't done that very often.
Dude, I'm so happy that you got your movie pass so that I can say, hey, Jesse, let's talk about this nerdy movie. And you'd be like, I can actually go see that.
I'll go see it right now. Yeah.
Because, I'm just like you. Tom, I'm not as busy as you because you are a family man. But anymore, I just, there's certain movies that I will make time for, and I will crack the wallet open, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous how But anyway, but this movie pass, if you want to give us some money for plugging you right now, I won't say no. But it's if you haven't heard of it, it's a subscription service that sends you a debit card, and for $9.99 a month is what we're paying. Did you do $9.99?
Yeah. Is there a
$6.99 one, I think, or $7.99 one? But they want all the money up front for the whole year.
I couldn't find that deal.
Really? Well, they might have taken it away.
I was going to say, I don't know if they did that just for Black Friday, but I looked on the website and I was like, surely I can get this because I was potentially going to get it, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't want to pay all that up.
I did gift it though. I gifted 3 months to my mom. So yeah, that she's supposed to be getting her card pretty soon. I was worried about the technological gap that we might be, because you have to have a smartphone. Well, mom had it all figured out. She was like, yeah, I put my address in it. I'm getting my card in a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, sweet. So
nice.
Yeah, you can gift it in 3, 6, and 12-month increments.
So what happens is there's an app, Movie Pass app. If your theater supports online ticketing, with Movie Pass, you can just buy your ticket online, through the app. If your theater also supports, what's the seating, if you can reserve seating.
Oh, reserve seating, yeah.
Yeah, if it supports reserve seating, then you can you actually reserve your seat with Movie Pass as well. But the way that you and I have used it is that you go within 100 yards of the theater that you're going to see your movie. You pick your time and your movie, and they actually load your debit card with the price of the ticket, and you present that card when you go to buy your ticket, and boom, you use it to pay. So you watch 2 movies in a month, and it's already paid for itself.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude. I I can tell you, my biggest fear was that none of the theaters around here are going to take it. I mean, I live in, I wouldn't say rural, but it's not the most well developed town in Ohio.
Right.
And so I was like, well,
You forget who you're talking to, buddy.
well, I was like, well, my theater ain't going to carry something like this or be able to do that. That's not the case. Any theater, anytime, they really mean that, because every theater around my area,
It's a MasterCard.
Yeah, it's just like a debit card. So it's the only thing you got to worry about is having the app on your phone. That's probably the biggest challenge, and then being able to check in. But yeah, it was real smooth. I went there tonight, first time I used it. I was like, okay. So I checked in, punched in the last 4 of my card, that activated it. Then I checked in, walked up to the counter within 2 minutes later, and got my ticket. Now you got to be within 100 yards of the theater, and then you're good to go. After it says success on your phone,
you're done.
You're done. You go in there and get your thing and watch your movie. And by golly, it worked easy. I will be making use of it.
It's definitely made a difference in my life as far as going to the movies. And that's how I bought my second showing of The Last Jedi.
Sweet.
But with that, I'm going to say thank you so much, Jesse. I've been dying to talk about this on our show, and with us 3, the hosts here. I was waiting for one of us, other than me, to go see it. I was like, please, somebody go see it. So I'm so glad you got to see it. We just touched on a few things that people have been talking about. We didn't go through the whole movie, but as a whole, love the movie. We'll see it. We'll buy it. Would probably go see it again in the theaters for a 3rd time because I got a movie pass. And
that's right, baby.
And if you're looking at it and you're like, no, you're coming up with all these excuses. That's all they are, is excuses. Enjoy the movie. See it for what it is, a chance to expand the Star Wars universe past what it is. With that, I'm going to say, for Jesse Starcher, I am Ronnie Adams. This is Screaming Boy Podcast, and I love Star Wars. We'll see you later. Talk to you later. Whatever.
Bye-bye.
All right. So do you want me to stop this?
Yeah, go ahead. Stop. I'm ready for bed, bro.
Okay.